Let me explain to you the incident. I don't know what is my time allocation. I think I just got to worry about my flight and that's about it. But anyway, let me explain to you an incident. When Allah wants to give peace in the battle of Uhud, you see, it's got nothing to do with wealth. It's got nothing to do with health. In fact, the ayah that I recited that I really want to explore, we haven't started. And that is what Allah says, whoever will obey Allah, Allah promises a good life. What is the definition of a good life? It's the perception that it's a healthy and a wealthy life. Let's define. Let's have a common definition of a good life. And on the other hand, Allah says, whoever disobeys Allah, Allah will give him a narrowed life. The apparent life that the kuffar have is wealth, affluence, comfort, fame, luxury. And yet the Quran says every kafir has a narrowed life. And the believers, Allah says, those who obey Allah, they will have a good life. The most deserving for this good life is the galaxy of the prophets and the noble companions of Nabi alayhi salam, because the quality of iman and a'mal salihah was found in them to the highest extent. Nobody could have this more than them. And hence we do not find health and wealth common amongst all the prophets. At times perhaps it could define a good life, but it doesn't necessarily entail the total definition of a good life. Perhaps Allah gives it to some. Allah gave it to Suleman alayhi salam. What a kingdom, what a dominion, what a vast empire Allah had given him. Sayyidina Ayyub alayhi salatu was salam. Scholars write two things define a good life and a content. This is the definition of a good life which Allah promises. The first is that whatever situation comes in your life, Allah gives you the ability to focus on the reward promise in that challenge in akhirah. What does Allah give you? That this condition has come upon you, like I spoke about Fatima, I spoke about radiyallahu anha and that woman. A challenge comes on you. The definition of a good life is Allah enables you, Allah empowers you, Allah enriches you. This is not something that I can say or you can purchase. This is divinely inspired. Allah enables you to focus. That this is the challenge, this is the calamity, this is on me in my life. This is what my Allah has kept for me in akhirah. And the second thing that defines a good life is that Allah gives you contentment. Now let's just briefly run through the life of Ayyub alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah had given him health, wealth, comfort, luxury, affluence. You name it and he had it. 80 years of total prosperity. Thereafter Allah decided to test him. Allah tested him in such a way, Allah took everything. Allah took all his farms, all his orchards, everything burnt away. The roof of his house, and this is authentic narrations, the roof of his house collapsed, causing all the occupants of his house, that were his 14 children, to die instantly. A person loses one child and never recovers. The trauma of it never recovers. He or she is never the same human onwards. 14 children he loses at one instance. He loses all his farms, and that's not all. He develops such a sickness that he has ulcers on his entire body. The only pillar of support that he had was his wife. And as I mentioned, the fundamental object of marriage is to put an end to depression and not to start depression. The Quran says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. The primary reason behind marriage is that it puts an end to depression, it puts happiness, joy, solace and bliss. And by virtue of the bond of marriage, Allah promises two: love and mercy. Love and mercy. بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. Scholars write, generally love translates itself in the initial stages of the marriage. قِيلَ الْمَوَدَّةِ لِلشَّابَّ وَالرَّحْمَةِ لِلْعَجُوزِ. And mercy for the respective partners often translates in the latter part of the marriage. In the initial stages it's more motivated by love and lust. So anyway, the pillar of support for him was his wife. His wife was the granddaughter of Yusuf alayhi salam. وَقَدْ رَافَقَتْ هَذِهِ الْمَرْأَةُ حَيَاةَ نِعْمَتِهِ وَصِحَّتِهِ وَزَمَنَ بُؤْسِهِ وَبَلَائِهِ فَكَانَتْ فِي الْحَالَيْنِ مَعَ زَوْجِهَا شَاكِرَةً صَابِرَةً. This woman seen the era of prosperity. When things are good, then the partners say, "Whoa, wonderful husband, wonderful. What more to complain?" Why? Because life is prosperous, everything is going well. But when difficulties comes, when challenges sets in, now this is the time to support your partner. More than often in Western circles, these marriages dissolve. Why? Because there are challenges. But look at through this bond. When Allah gives contentment in the midst of difficulties, what joy there is. Like, subhanallah, you know, they say in Arabic, Ahlul layli fi laylihim aladhu min ahli lahwi fi lahwihim. Ahlul layli fi laylihim aladhu. Allah's qasam, the joy that people derive in disturbing their sleep, and making wuzu in cold water, and enjoying the privilege of communicating with Allah in the dead of night, is much greater and much more than that young boy who's sitting on the lap of a beautiful, seductive, strange woman in the heart of a club with a bottle of wine in his hand. My brother, you have tasted the fake pleasure. You've seen how it has deceived you. I call you in this gathering and I invite you and I implore you. I introduce you to divine pleasure. I introduce you to spiritual pleasure. Wallah, there is such pleasure in salah. A time may Allah favor you with it, one and all. that moment comes in your life, Allah's qasam. I don't want to sit and, you know, it's not something I want to mention. Where you will go in sajda, and I promise you, you will derive such pleasure. Allah's qasam, in His control is my life. You won't able to lift your head up. May Allah give it to you, say Ameen. I promise you, brothers, I can tear and say it. There are those moments which Allah gives. رَجُلٌ ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ خَالِيًا. You know, one is you crave for a woman, you crave for a pill, you crave for a sin, and one is you crave for Allah. It's not even a correct term and phrase to use. You know, it has filthy connotations, crave. But you love Allah, and you sit in sajda, and you feel the presence of your Allah, and you feel that closeness to Allah, that you, wallah, I swear by Allah, you can't lift your head up. You just cannot. It's like you're stuck. There's something between you and your Creator. You'll forget that fake pleasure. Ahlul layli fi laylihim aladhu min ahli lahwi fi lahwihim. It comes in the Hasha of Tafsir Uthmani, this quotation, that the joy of those that obey Allah and their pleasure. Imam Yusuf rahmatullah alayhi used to say, if the kings knew the pleasure we got in reading kitabs, they would throw their kingdom and they would study kitabs. They would abandon. You know, I often have this, and I share this as a sense of joy. When you're studying a kitab at times till late, and you come across some new point, some new hadith, something that you could perhaps convey, it's such joy. I don't know how to express it. Where you've discovered a new point, a new tafsir, a new commentary. You've arrived at a new conclusion. And it's midnight and everyone is sleeping. And subhanallah, you come to a conclusion and you know, deduce some point. It is a pleasure which I cannot translate in words. So what happens to Ayyub alayhi salam? The pillar of support was his wife. And she stands by his side. She stood in the days of prosperity as well as the days of difficulty. But as life continued, 7 years of difficulty, Ayyub alayhi salam, the sickness took a toll on her. We often sympathize on a person that is sick. We forget to sympathize with those living with a sick person. At times they need more sympathy than the sick person. What about those that are living with a sick person? So it started taking a toll on her. 7 years lapsed. She comes to her husband. She says, don't you think it's high time you make dua to Allah that now He cures you and, you know, once again restores your health, and we can see prosperity again. The tunnel is dark, it's raining, it's pouring, life is narrowing upon us. Don't you think perhaps if Allah can open up things in our life and we have a more brighter future? But this is a Nabi of Allah. He asked his wife, Kam labithtu fil raha. Oh my wife, how long did we enjoy health and prosperity? So she said, 80 years, 8 decades. Kam labithtu fil bala. How long did we live in difficulty, and how long am I sick, and how long is it since we lost our children? So she said, it's 7 years, if I recall correct, since these difficulties came in our life. So Sayyidina Ayyub said, Ama astahi an atlub min Allahi raf'a bala'i wa ma qadaytu fihi muddata rakha'i. I feel ashamed that when my Allah has given me 80 years of prosperity, and my Allah has only tested me for 7 years, I don't have the guts, nor do I think my situation justifies me asking Allah. 80 years of prosperity, if Allah tests me with difficulty for 80 years, and my days of adversity is in proportion to my days of prosperity, then perhaps I will take the courage of asking Allah. But until 80 years don't lapse, I'm not going to make an attempt to ask Allah. In the midst of sickness, but he's content. He is totally happy. There's divine happiness. You know, in the battle of Uhud, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam had posted 50 archers. And he told them, you guard that mountain. Right? 50 archers. And the Sahaba were moving in the battle.